masses, not just for the ruling classes. Education is a right. This is why we will fight. Education is a right. This is why we will fight.
I'm going to take you back to 1982, I'm sorry, but that's when I went to university in Liverpool. It was a while ago, but when I went to university, I had a grant. I did my degree. I came out of university with no debt. I was able to go on to get a job. I was able to go on and do the things that I wanted to do, travel. I had choices. I did not have a huge debt around my neck. I actually went on some of the first demonstrations against the fees, against any, thing that made working class people excluded from education. Now, I think this is something that we're going to have to do again, because back 30 years ago, we could see what privatisation was doing. Along with Thatcher and Reagan, they had neoliberal politics. This is where we've ended up, and we said this 30 years ago. I don't want you to feel sort of down about that or depressed, because actually we can do something about it. If you look at what happened in Greece this week, they had the fascist Golden Dawn. What happened with the anti-fascists? They have worked, they have fought together, and though the Golden Dawn this week were named as a criminal gang, and the people who are at the front of that gang are going to be imprisoned, and rightly so. So, what we learn is coming together, united around the things that we know are important. It's our agenda that we need to put on the map, because we cannot rely on other people to do that. We certainly can't rely on the Tories and the rich. So we come together, we unite, we put our agenda, and when we do unite and we resist, we can get results. Don't give this up, because I tell you now, the marketisation through Manchester and every other country of university and education is seeing a great load of, dare I call them fat cats, because that's what they are, okay? There's figures around there. I know you probably all know the companies that are making the money. They're still making the money. It's not theirs. It really isn't. You do need to do your rent strike, but more than that, we need to ensure that education is the right of everybody. It's our right. We need to stand up and ensure that we put that on the agenda. You shouldn't have to pay for it, not with your help and not with a terrible financial loan. And I'm sure a lot of parents will be carrying that loan. It's not acceptable. I tell you, last weekend I was with a friend. Their son went to Cambridge 2 weeks ago. Now, I'm not against good education. I said, are you worried about him? She said, look at his accommodation. He's got an apartment. If they can do it for the tiny minority, they can do it for all of us. We are not going to work down. We want to improve our conditions, yeah? It's not a race to the bottom, it's a race to the top. So we can all do that, but we can only do it if we're united. So solidarity, we're with you. This fight is far from over. So we need to keep up the momentum, and let's keep in touch and do what we can to keep going. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just want to start by saying that I stand up to racism. We're here today to stand in solidarity with all the students and the staff at the university, because let's be quite honest, if you look at the press, you would assume that it's your fault that there is a COVID outbreak in Paddington and across Manchester. Well, let's be very clear, we've heard this before. You know what I mean? They want to tell us that if the students don't understand the rules of isolating and don't take it seriously enough. But actually, it wasn't so long ago at the start of this pandemic when we were seeing the shocking figures of people that were losing their about this. The disproportionate impact that COVID was having was on the black community. And at the time, they tried to tell us it was something to do with black people. Maybe it's a G, it's a vitamin D, or maybe it's just the fact that there's something in our culture that means that we don't understand how to stay safe. But it was just an example of the fact that this government wants to blame everybody else but themselves. The previous speaker just talked about the fact that actually, had they gone into lockdown earlier, less people would have lost their lives. In fact, I've heard reports saying that had they gone into lockdown a week earlier, we would have had half the deaths that we have. So let's be very clear about this. This is not about anything that you as students are doing. We do not blame students. I'm a local, I live locally, I live down the road, I'm like literally 5 minutes away from this hall's residence. I do not hold students responsible for the fact that we have seen such a massive spike in cases, positive tests in Manchester. There is only there's a couple of people that are responsible. One is quite clearly the government, and they're rushed. Let's be very clear to this. The government has got a rush to get us back out, business as usual, making profit for the, the university management at the cost of people's lives. That's what this is about. It's a rush to get us back out there and making profit. And also, I blame the management at the university. They knew this was coming. They should have had something in place. The idea that they would get thousands of students to come to Manchester, travel from across the country, and then be locked into small spaces and not be surprised that we see a spike is a bit of a joke. We have to hold this government to account. We have to hold the university management who, again, are running this thing like a business. They are making profit. Let's be very, very clear about this. You pay thousands of fees, and they are making a profit on the back of that. And it's not ordinary workers at the university that are benefiting from the profits this university organisation makes. It is not the cleaners, it is not the teaching staff, it is not the other support, hundreds of thousands of support workers. It is the people that run the university at the top of it that are to blame. Just as Boris Johnson and his ilk are to blame for the fact that we are seeing the massive rise in cases. So I just want to say, as an anti-racist organisation, we stand in solidarity with students and any other, let's be quite clear, today is students. Not so long ago during the summer when they were pushing to get schools open, but it was teachers that were to blame for not allowing kids to learn and all the rest of it. We stand with anybody, any group of people who are being attacked by this government, who are being used and scapegoated by this government for their faults. Let's be very clear, we stand in solidarity. And with that in mind, I just want to say, Stand Against Racism is a national organisation. We want people to get involved and to build the resistance, because just as they are attacking you, they are going to attack other minority groups, predominantly black people, because it's an easy target. They ram up racism in society, whether it's, and you've heard the press stories, and people can tell and the comments we've made about refugees, a tiny number of people that are fleeing horrendous situations to get to our borders in dinghies that are, that risk their lives, they put their children's lives in danger when they get on those dinghies. And this government, what do they say? We've got to keep them out. They never talk about the fact that why are these people fleeing what they're doing? They never talk about that. Just as they never talk right now about why are students affected? What is the reason why we have such high numbers in particular in Manchester? Because actually, this is where the majority of students are, and therefore we stand in solidarity. Stand Against Racism nationally has got a conference on the 17th and 18th of October. It's an online conference. In there, one of the sessions I think lots of people are going to be interested in is a session on decolonising the curriculum. We want to work to make sure that some of the lessons of the rhetoric we've had around Black Lives Matter over the summer, we actually get some real change. And like I said, solidarity, let's build a movement that can actually hold this government to account, whether it's around racism or whether it's attacks on our health or whether it's attacks on our education. Solidarity.
Came to Manchester for the weather in 1985. I'm still here now from London, 30 years later, maybe even longer. God help us. And I obviously stayed for the weather, so I'm sure all of you will enjoy the joys that Manchester brings with the weather over the years. But more importantly, when I came like Vanetta, I came in a full student grant, and I came with all my tuition fees paid for all of my university experience. It was Manchester Metropolitan University, or as it was called then, Manchester Poly. But nevertheless, it was all paid for in advance. And there's no reason why, under this government or any other government, they can't afford to pay for your education and pay for your accommodation. These are things that you should have as a right. And so when they say they want to go back to normal, like things were before pre-COVID, well, I don't want to go back to normal. Back to normal is when they were ripping us off every day while they got richer, while we got poorer. And therefore we have to fight for a world that says we're not going to go back to what it was like before, but we're going to fight for things that we need to have in the future. And that fight starts with yourselves now at the moment. In every university, staff and students are starting to organise to resist what this government has done to them in terms of bringing them to a university when there is actually no safety thought of, in terms of bringing you back so they can charge you for your accommodation, not so they can give you an education. And actually they don't care about lecturers either, because I was in a meeting earlier this week with them, and actually they've not even got the ones that are actually having to still run classes, are not even provided with the PPE they need to be able to provide those classes safely. So they don't really care, all they care about is the money. and that goes across the public sector. From the start of this COVID crisis, right the way through it, all they've cared about is what profits they can make at our expense. But I mentioned it earlier, I believe there's 27% more billionaires than there were at the start of COVID than there is now. Okay, someone's making money at our expense. And therefore, the majority of us don't trust this government. They did a survey, came out yesterday, this may not shock you. 80% of people don't trust the government and what it says anymore. And actually, we have to turn that distrust of government into organisation and action to be able to defend ourselves and our workmates for our health and well-being, but also for our financial pocket. And that means that we need to organise in every college, in every university, among every group of workers to make sure there's resistance. That's why Vanetta mentioned the People Before Profit initiative. We are campaigning across the country, trade unions together, to argue for an agenda to bring it together. Because we know that it isn't just about creating a more equal society that we need, but we need to make sure that we have the things that we need. The furlough scheme's extended. The people aren't thrown on the dole by made redundant. We need to make sure that there's proper wages for people that are working, they're protected in work. We need to make sure their health and safety is considered. And we don't enter a second wave where again people die disproportionately based on their class or their race. We cannot have that happen again this time round. We need an agenda that says we're not going to fall for their lies. I mean, hopefully we'll get rid of one nutter very soon, Donald Trump. Hopefully the drugs will kill him if the election doesn't in the next few days. We hope that he'll be gone. But that's not good enough for us. We've got another mini-Trump, haven't we, Johnson, in this country, who thinks he can divert our attention away from the real issues by trying to force refugees on oil rigs or mini islands somewhere. Well, we have to make sure that we stand together. So the other part of the Charter for the People Before Profit is we have to fight for equality for all. That they can't afford to divide and rule us depending on whether we're gay or straight, or whether we're black or not, or whatever our religion or race or whatever. We can't afford to use divide and rule tactics to force us down again. So what we need is unity. We need unity of yourselves to be able to fight. We need organisation to be able to challenge them. You are the ones that can change things. Nothing in history has been given to us, right, by a politician, ever, okay? Look at your history. Go back, whether it's the Chartist movement, whether you're looking at the women's right to vote, whatever you've gained in this world has been fought for by ordinary people like yourselves here today. You can all be leaders in that fight. You can all organise together for that fight, because it will require mass movement to fight them back. And there's no reason why you shouldn't win as long as you stand together. So you need to organise everyone in that fight to make sure that we win. Not just for your student fees, not just for your health and safety, but we fight for a world that puts people before profit. And that's what we have to stand together and achieve. Thank you for your time.
Just one final reminder about the rent strike. I think the rent strike really sums up a lot of the stuff we've been talking about and how we can work together, show solidarity, and actually make a difference. So follow us, we're UOM Rent Strike on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can pledge to not pay your rent this month. And if every single person here didn't pay their rent, that would cost the university hundreds of thousands of pounds, and they would concede into reducing our rent costs and giving us better standards. Education for the masses, not just for the ruling classes. Education for the masses, not just for the ruling classes. Education for the masses, not just for the ruling classes. Education is a right. This is why we must fight. Education is a right. This is why we must fight. And Boris Johnson is a wanker. Boris Johnson is a wanker. Boris Johnson is a wanker. And he's a racist too. Oi, oi! Tory, Tory, Tory! Out, out, out! Tory, Tory, Tory! Out, out, out! Thank you so much, everybody, for coming here.
We're here today to stand in solidarity with students because the university's treated us really badly. They've promised COVID-safe campuses, which hasn't been allowed. In the second day of week one, we were told that we weren't allowed to go into university at all, so they brought us back here for no reason. We're having to pay full rent fees whilst we're being trapped in our accommodation, and it was extortionately expensive anyway, and people aren't having their fridges and their rooms fixed anymore. Cleaners are still being forced into rooms even though everyone's isolating, so they're being put at risk. We're standing in solidarity with the UCU to say that lecturers shouldn't be forced back into unsafe campuses as well. We're here to protect the community from COVID and say that the university should have prepared more. They had 6 months to prepare for this, and it's not acceptable. Well, we scrapped tuition fees, which should have been done anyway. Give us rent fees back as well if we've already paid them. They should not force lecturers back into their unsafe working conditions, and they should listen to the unions because they know how to organise themselves the best. I'm here today to stand in solidarity with other students. I'm lucky enough to not be living in halls, but there's so many students, especially in Manchester, that are stuck in tiny little rooms right now, which will be unfair anyway, but especially right now with tuition fees at more than £9 a year, with maintenance loans so expensive. I'm now doing my master's course and I'm racking up 60 grand's worth of debt, you know, and I'm here to just stand in solidarity in the hopes that some of these students are going to get something back at least, and keep the staff safe as well. Today went really well. We drew like a decent sized crowd, especially when we first walked in. There was only about 4 of us here, but it's grown really well. We want rent freeze for students, we want tuition fees to be lowered, we want the staff to be kept safe from the students who are ill, and to be kept safe from losing their jobs as well.